Let's get back to the business. The South and West Chambers are pleased to present our podcast showcasing some of our most successful members. Let's get into the business. Welcome back to the business. This is Al Ariola Jr. I am President and CEO for the South San Antonio Chamber of Commerce. I am joined today with our guest, Bruce Finley of B&B Smokehouse, and is also going to be joining our board of directors in 2021, and we're excited about that. Bruce, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having us, Al.
So, Bruce, you're one of my favorite chamber members. I think you're the best barbecue in San Antonio. I do remember when I first started here, B&B still on Pleasanton, right?
Correct.
Still in Pleasanton. It was a smaller place, and you sought to expand, and it's been fun to see what you've been able to do there. Tell us just a little bit about the story of B&B from what was. We'll get into what is, but for what was.
Sure. Well, thank you, Al, and thank you for having us here. And B&B's got a long story, 36 years. Started out in September 11th, 1984. And of course, like you mentioned, the old place, which was a small, quintessential
old school barbecue joint.
Yeah. Smoke shack kind of place. Smoky little dive, really. Yeah. Began expanding our customer base. Great customers. You had to be pretty modest and humble to walk in such a dive to look for the great food, and it's just been great over the years. The whole community, customer base.
Well, I mean, even back then, I remember the parking lot was only so big, but the line was still out the door. I mean, it never failed. Early on, of course, it was tough getting going, but midway through, it really started cooking, so to speak. Sure. Let's use it fun. So I know before it was more of I guess, you and your brother? Or
Correct. That was the other B.
The other B before.
For Bob.
And
Bob.
Now it's Bruce and Becky.
Yeah, that's correct. And Becky's not my other brother, but she's my wife.
Well, and you guys with the expansion, I know Jefferson Bank was helpful to you in that. Joe De La Garza used to be our chairman. He's always been excited about your expansion. You want to describe that for those folks that might not be familiar with what the new B&B looks like?
Well, it more than tripled in size. So the complaint was always we didn't have enough parking.
Right.
Didn't have enough seating.
And don't have enough parking now still.
We really don't. So, but for all those out there who's wondering if they should expand and do it, definitely do it. Yeah, it's tough, but it's all going to pay off in the long run. You invest in your Southside property, you invest in your customer base. It just gets bigger.
With where you are, you beautified essentially half a city block, essentially, and then across across the street is the elementary school that also redeveloped.
Oh,
and,
yes.
and there's a lot of character redefining itself that is quickly looking more and more beautiful.
Absolutely, and anybody can come down, and any business owner or a businessman or person can come down and see what you can do on the South Side.
Yeah, well, you've always said that.
Oh, it's true. I've done business on the North Side, and it's just easier on the South Side.
And tell me why. Tell us why.
The people, they have money. Their houses are paid off.
Mm-hmm. We have the most home ownership. That's a stat that I've heard Councilwoman Via Granberg about, is that per capita, especially in that District 3 where you are, that there is more homeowners than anywhere else in San Antonio.
Oh, I don't doubt that.
I believe that too.
Yeah, absolutely. They have cash. They love to shop, eat out, get around, travel, come back, and they all have big families.
Yeah,
that
like your barbecue.
Well, yeah, more than barbecue, but just buy things and live life, and have a great time.
No, yeah, we know that, on paper, maybe there's this assumption because a lot of data is measured by bank deposits or different stuff that maybe isn't really being reflected in the economy, which you're suggesting is it's very much a cash economy. There's cash on hand that people are ready to spend, and
absolutely,
and it's out in the market, and it shows that you've been pretty successful. With business, there's risk. Being in every day is a risk, right? But you to take that leap of faith. Where did that soul searching come from? Was this something you just were interested in and then said, hey, let me put the pen to the paper and see if this makes sense? Or, you always knew you wanted to do this? Or
absolutely. I always knew once we got going, it's like we need more room, and I'm so ready to do it. And my brother, not so much.
Sure.
And so that was a little bit of a hurdle, and eventually we were able to buy his share out.
And Becky obviously shared the vision, so to speak.
Well, actually not totally. She had her own career, working actually for the Archdiocese.
Okay.
And which was probably as much hassle as running a restaurant, but Absolutely. It doesn't taste as good. But she wanted to learn all, and she retired from the Archdiocese and wanted to learn all about the restaurant business. And
well, every time I'm there, she's there, and I mean, she's greeting, she's saying hello, she's serving the food. I mean, she looks like she's having a good time.
She loves it.
She
really does. It's been a challenge for her, but she does HR and payroll, and and we have 75 employees.
That's not a shabby location. I'm assuming you took on more employees after the expansion too.
A little more than doubled.
Oh wow! Oh wow! And smoke masters, pit masters, always a discussion of things. Yeah, I'm sure you have a whole crew that helps with everything.
That's one of it's not a hard job to do. You just have to care and show up on time, obviously. But there's a little freedom back there being a pit master. Sure. So it's a job that's wanted by the employees. So
it's the coolest. It's like the cool job. The trumpet player of the group.
Right. Well,
I play trumpet. That's why.
Okay. There.
I'm thinking band, not so much rock band. Well, Bruce, with respect to B&B, any future plans beyond? I'm not trying to put it out there that
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe expansion possibilities or a franchise.
I believe it. And signature dishes. Anything you want to brag about?
Well,
I love your chicken. And I love
chicken is.
I think it's the best. I really do. So, no disrespect to all our chamber members out there that make chicken, but I think Bruce really makes some of the best smoked chicken in the game. Your brisket sandwiches are awesome. I mean, everything's really, really good. But anything you want to brag about in particular?
Just all the meats. The turkey's the best in town. And people think, well, how can turkey be so good? It really the chicken. People go, I've had chicken all week long. I don't want to eat chicken. It's really good chicken.
No, the flavor profile is.
Yeah,
it's yours. It's awesome.
Yeah, the briskets,
Well, of course,
pork rib. We can go on and on.
Yeah, no, and your sides too. Your sides are
all made from scratch.
And you can tell. You were one of the first, and I'll give you some love for this too, was to start, I guess, welcoming some more local products, I guess, in the area towards your establishment, like Southside Craft Soda.
Yes.
Andrew, and getting there. How's that been working out for y'all and him, I guess?
That's I think that's a great thing for him. People really like to see that, especially visitors coming in from out of town. They always want to have the local
flavor.
Gotcha. Absolutely.
And so you are seeing folks that even locals and non-locals alike are kind of doing the pairings, if you will.
Oh, sure.
Gotcha.
Sure, absolutely. And I think that's true anywhere. If you went to New Orleans, you want to drink local beer,
right,
and all that.
No, absolutely. Do you serve beer?
Yes.
You do, huh?
We sure do.
Okay. And
through the drive-through also. Seriously.
Well, the governor did, loosen some regulations for you. Getting back to that, I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, you were pretty quick to make sure your employees and your customers stayed safe. You had your drive-through option available.
Right.
I know when in-house heating, you took it seriously and did it spacious. And anything else you want to talk about? If anything, I want to let everybody in the audience know that this is another example of a pillar of the community that not only took the responsibility of keeping customers safe, but your employees too. I mean, the name of the game is to serve healthy food all the time, right?
Absolutely. Mask, gloves, the whole thing. All the city and state requirements that are needed. Wiping tables down, distancing, sanitizer. There'll be a person at the front door opening the door for you and opening it when you leave. And people really like that. We've, it's an important thing.
It is. It always has been, right? So
Absolutely.
The restaurant industry was kind of had to pivot one way and then had to pivot another, and you had to be kind of creative in your own spaces. Obviously, those were through what folks called at the time analyzing the data and et cetera, et cetera. What could you say to going into the next year that maybe folks, especially in the government in space, could be more mindful of? How could we help more businesses like yours when, if ever, something like this ever happened again, if you will?
How could the government help?
Yeah, government, I guess, or just, as opposed to not. I don't want to Monday morning quarterback this, but where do you think maybe was an unnecessary hurdle, if you will?
Oh, that's a good one. It's been such a...
I know you're going to try your best to be politically correct, and I appreciate that, but, what was an unnecessary hurdle, if you will?
Well, it seems to be a lot of politics flying around
right, I agree.
This whole year and the last 4 years. Well,
I'll give you an out here.
Yeah.
Where like I said,
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, like I said, where I was frustrated was you saw this conversation of analyzing data. We're now still here now at the end of 2020, and you see data is significantly different or worse than at that beginning, and those knee-jerk reactions to what needed to be done is where I was very confused that it was never taking the full scope of the economy in consideration and
That's
the full
right.
scope of folks like you, that not only are you responsible to pay your bills, but you feel the responsibility to make sure your folks are fed and everybody gets fed
absolutely.
around you. And I'm sure there were some heartbreaking decisions that had to be made in the heat of it all too, I'm sure.
It was very scary.
Right.
That first day where, I think it was a Thursday, you just ceased doing business.
Right. It was like, here you go.
We went from a full parking lot to an empty parking lot, and it was creepy.
It was scary.
It was very scary. So, there's worse things than dying.
Right.
It's like losing everything you've always worked for.
And that fear was there.
Yeah. So the government, needs to think of that too, and losing everything, their position and everything that think they've worked for.
Right.
Which.
Well, and I saw this. I saw this, and we're a chamber of commerce, so we're allowed to have our thoughts on government. That where I just felt where it could have just been more sensitive to the issue was there was a financial implication that was being bore by yourself, and businesses were being asked to be creative, be innovative. Have you considered this? Have you considered that? Going into 2021, I'd like to challenge our government partners. How creative are they going to be in the next year to come? That we are going to need even more solutions to help businesses really, really, truly recover. I'm happy that I think you're not in that same space where you're saying that this year killed you. I hope, right? Like maybe you didn't get where you wanted to get this year, but I hope that next year there's plans to just get back to normal for yourself, huh?
We sure hope so, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially the other members of the restaurant community.
Are you trending that way? Does it look like you're getting back to a steady pace that you're used to?
We had the drive-through, and that was huge. And I've heard more than one person say, talking to a banker, you're going to have a drive-through if you open a restaurant.
Well, that was a good decision.
So otherwise, you're not going to get money lent to you. It's just tough.
Yeah, no, I know, and like I said, you've been kind of with your head in it, just doing what's right and trying to keep it going. I want to get into next year. Like I said, you're on our board of directors. The reason why we did you were nominated, and the reason why we're excited to have you is, again, what we looked for was who really in our area of town, especially, one, values our area of town, and two, really got innovative and stepped up and said, we will not die in this. We will keep fighting our fight. I think you exemplified that. Your business stayed fighting, stayed scrappy, and I think that's a big deal. That's something to be said.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Let me see. I want you to any particular special or something that you want to put out there that you got going on right now.
Well, we're just looking, like you said, to 2021, and it's our slow period right now. It always is in the fall, but we're still doing way more business than we did at the old store.
That's great.
And looking forward to next year and being very active with the South Chamber, and just banging heads with other people and putting our heads together, I should say.
And we might need to bang some heads too, right?
Not ours, but someone else.
Sure.
But and hopefully get more people involved, and just make things happen, and definitely with the Southside, people have to realize what a golden opportunity is down here.
No, you've always spoken to the buying power. I mentioned that some data doesn't maybe present itself the way that some typical folks are looking at reading numbers and whatnot, but like you said, the buying power is very real. It's significant. It's obviously why you've expanded. At the Pleasanton location, it's on south of Military. For those of you guys out there not familiar with it, I mentioned Bruce's menu. He mentioned some of those items. I highly recommend the chicken lambs. I said it's one of my favorites, but everything's a favorite. Also check our chamber stuff. You'll see plenty of videos of Bruce's food on our videos too, because he's been such a great chamber member. Any shout outs you want to give? Any folks at home? I'm sure the wife too, but any folks? Any other folks?
Becky's probably hard at work right now. So hats off to the wife. Lots of energy, and what a smart, really bright and talented lady. And she has the spirit when I'm just like down for the day.
Well, what's it like? Let me ask you. I think that's pretty bold to go in business with your wife. I know I might be scared to do that.
Well, we're both very different in our abilities, and I'm really the food person.
Okay.
And she's the
admin.
Absolutely admin.
Gotcha.
Ad woman. End of it. So. I'll go in and try the food and deal with any issues we might be having, availability of product and costing and whatever. But she's got a much bigger mountain to push around than I do.
Any funny stories you can share? Something that was
regarding
a silly fight at work, or
no, we don't do that.
No?
We don't do that. If anything, it's like I'll get home early, typically, than her, and she'll finally come home and it's like, oh, don't tell me about that. It's time for a beer or a glass of wine, and
let's clock out today.
Yeah, I don't want to hear about that. Okay.
Well, like I said, your wife's always there. She's certainly a staple. There are some stuff that you have hanging that seem to be homages to the family. Can you describe some of those too?
Well, my mom and dad, they're in a large picture mural on the far wall, and he had started. They had started a hamburger barbecue restaurant called Hal's Drive-In.
So you've grown up in this.
1958. Yes, I literally was in a playpen behind the little counter where you go up to the window, and my mom would serve hamburgers through the window.
And as soon as they could put you to work, they did.
Well, I don't know. I was eating a lot of ice cream cones and burgers and things like that. So, but I came back and always had food in the blood, and so I couldn't wait to kind of get going.
It's what you knew you wanted to do.
Yeah, I really did. Actually, my first restaurant job was 2 years before I opened the B&B, and I started as a dishwasher. For all you out there that think you can't get there, you can.
Sure.
2 years later, I was an owner of a restaurant.
That's most of what we hear from most folks is obviously you got to start somewhere, and if you have a dream and a passion to pursue it. Mm-hmm. For those entrepreneurs out there, those folks that have an idea, have a vision, you got any advice for them?
don't give up. Even my mother, 6 months into the restaurant, said, "Well, maybe y'all made a mistake." It's like,
cool.
What? Mom?
I have a mom like that too.
What are you talking about?
Thanks, Mom.
So don't, even when people around you are doubting you and want you to give up or don't believe in you, you just have to believe in yourself and have the tenacity to keep going no matter what.
Right. Well, and again, no disrespect to moms out there, but I think what most folks do is what feels safe, and obviously starting a business is not a safe proposition ever, right?
Yeah.
Like you're gonna dive in and learn to swim.
Well, I was literally the kid in the neighborhood that would always do the crazy thing, jump off the roof. I'll do it. I'll jump off the roof. I was the first one.
So you jumped off the roof, and we've been
literally.
that much. Again, we're very lucky to have you jump off the roof here with us, and the growth that you've had. I can only hope. How about this? What I can hope for all our members is you see this. I'm from a small town, and here on the Southside, I think you hear that kind of happen sometimes. Is yeah, but we don't have this, or yeah, we don't have that. So they get very to the set of these national corporate chains, if you will, that somehow validates a marketplace by having that thing.
No.
I've never subscribed to that. Where I feel economic development, true economic development, is when something like your business that starts, a simple, humble operation that had only so many employees ends up doubling size, doubling employment, and then, like I said, I could hope for the day that there is another, and I'm sure you do too, a B&B Smokehouse, one on the southwest side, one on the far southeast side. But that to me is where the scope of economic development grows. The owners are from San Antonio. Those owners spend their money in San Antonio. I've heard these stats where on the national chains, like if you end up buying, let's say it's a burger for $5, a good $3.25 of that is already going to corporate expenses. You know what I mean? And then the other $1.25 is barely going to figure its way out. So your buying power, your staying power is incredibly significant, Bruce. And I'm just going to thank you so much on behalf of all of us at the Chamber.
Wow,
you're what it's members like you that keep the whole Southside going and our organization going. So Bruce, big thanks, man.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, you've been great. I want to thank you for taking your time today. I know Becky's at the restaurant. I know you probably got to go get it out there to help her. But I also want to thank our audience out there for joining us. You've been joined by Al Ariola from the South Chamber, Bruce Finley from B&B Smokehouse. You've been given the business. Thank you for joining us.